Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. My name is Utpala, and this is course 4, Proof of Future Lives, class 8. I can't believe we're up to class 8 already. I apologize again for being late. I don't know why Zoom is giving me, it doesn't like me too much in the morning. It wants me to check my microphone, and I don't know. But I will come earlier next time and deal with Zoom before the class is supposed to start, well before the class is supposed to start. Okay, thank you so much for your interest in this course. It's really good for me to be reviewing all of this. So I truly appreciate it. Before we get started, let's take a moment and recall our motivation for being here so that we can plant the most powerful seeds that we can. So take a moment to bring your mind inside the room where you are. Sitting on the seat that you are, feel it support you. Bring awareness to your breath as it leaves and enters your body. And now ask yourself the question, what brings me here today? What is it that the contemplation of reasoning and of the possibility of past and future lives, what will that allow us to do? Or allow you to do? Allow me to do? There is no one other than us individually who can bring us to a higher state of being. If we want to experience a state of being where our heart is wide open to all living beings, and we wish all living beings to have all happiness, to be free from suffering. And if we want to be able to know precisely what each individual living being needs at any moment, if we want to experience that, we have to create it. No one can wave a magic wand and bring us there. May the time in our class together today, may it plant very powerful seeds for us to have that experience. And if you'd like to join me in the prayers, you are most welcome to. Sangye Chiran Soki Chuknam La Changchu Badu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Daki Jushe Ki Pe Sanam Ki Chola Penchir Sangye Jupar Sho Sangye Chiran Soki Chuknam La Changchu Pardu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Daki Chishe Ki Pe Sunam Ki Jola Pinchir Sangye Drupar Sho Sangye Chiran Soki Chuknam La Changchu Pardu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Daki Chishe Ki Pe Sunam Ki Jola Pinchir Sangye Drupar Sho Sachi Puki Chukshin Meto Tram Viram Lingshin Yinde Gampadi Sangye Shindu Mikte Owargi Jokun Namdak Shingla Drupar Sho Idam Guru Rata Mandala Kanya Yatayami. So does anybody have any questions from last class? When we went through J's proofs of elimination about what the Nirnengigyu, or the material cause for the first moment of mind. No questions, once again. Okay, then we'll just get moving right into some more proofs. So today we start reviewing proofs offered by Master Dharmakirti. And this is from Geshe Yeshe Wangchuk's commentary. Which is good that we have his commentary. So we're going to spend 2 classes on reviewing 10 different proofs that Dharmakirti gives in his commentary to Master Dignaga's text. They're all proofs related to past and future lives. So this chapter, the reading for today's class and for next Wednesday's class, is combined into one reading. And I must say it's a bit challenging. And so I just wanted to suggest that you, if you're taking this course for the first time, just read about half of that reading for classes 8 and 9. Or just wait until after we finish class 9 and then read that whole section. But it's challenging to go through his presentation and just read it slowly. Maybe after you read a section or a paragraph, spend a few minutes and just contemplate what he said. This is a course that I think, at least from my experience, it's good to review many times to allow this content to make some sense, like continue with other studies, other practices, and then come back to it every year or something, and go through it again slowly. This is one that will come to it if we are a person who is putting these ancient teachings into practice in our lives. And if we are meditating, and if we are spending time contemplating the teachings and putting them into practice in our lives, the more we do so, the more our minds will be ripe to understand these reasonings, to have them hit us in a way that brings clarity. I'm not trying to frighten you, but just take it easy on yourself. Okay? Don't decide, oh, I'm not a logician. No, that's not what's going on. Just take it slow and easy. There's no race to fully understand this course. Okay. So remember that we talked I think I mentioned it a few times, that Dignaga and Dharmakirti were debating with people. They're called the Charvakas, and in the Tibetan language it's called Gyalpenpa. That was a group of people from like 1300 years ago, right? And there are people who did not accept reincarnation or the existence of past lives and future lives. They thought you come into existence in this life, and then when you die, that's it, it's over. And so these Buddhist masters would debate people who held those views. In the culture of ancient India, most people just accepted with the Hindu faith that you are born, that you do have future lives and you did have past lives, and that who you are in this life and what you experience in this life, you'll be like planting the experiences that you'll have in your next life. That was culturally accepted. But in terms of reasoning, people didn't have reasoning for it. So it was a belief in the sense of, well, this is what my parents told me, or this is what my teacher says. And so this is the way it is, without really thinking about why it would be so, that they have past and future lives. But the Charvakas, they didn't accept that. They said, well, based on what we can see, there's only this life. That's the only thing I can accept, is this life. And I've watched people be born, and I've watched people die, and this is all there is. So Masters Dignaga and Dharmakirti were debating with them. So this is what I have here highlighted on the screen is the first of Master Dharmakirti's proofs about past and future lives. And we'll go quickly through this one. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time with Tibetan language in this class, but just to start us off, and this verse, it includes some ideas that carry forward into the other proofs that we'll be talking about. So, Kewa Yang Su Lenpana Chung Wang Po Lo Tak Ni Rangi Rik La Tu Me Chen Lu Ni Ba Shik Le Kie Min. This first line, Kewa Yang Su Lempana, that means when a person takes birth. When a person takes birth. Zhenglup Wangpo Lo Dak Ni. Zhenglup, that is the passing of the breath, exhaling. Ukjanuk means breathing out and breathing in. So a full breath out and in. So Junglup is standing for that. Wangpo is sense power. We had this last time. And Lo is another word for mind. We've had Sem, we've had Shepa, we've had Sem, we've had Rikpa, and now we have Lo. So those three, Junguk, breathing, Wangpo, our sense powers, our eyes, nose, ears, tongue, skin, and Lo, our mind. Those three, Doc is a pluralizer. So those three ideas of breathing, of living physical sense powers, right? They're physical organs, eyeballs, eardrums, something going on in the nostril there, and something going on our tongue, and the nerves in our body that are sensitive to touch, right? Those physical living sense powers and our mind, those three characteristics are what he's basing most of his debates on. So, when we have a debate, we first identify, what are we talking about? What's the subject of our debate? And most of the debates are the subject is those three: breathing, physical sense powers, and the mind. They're basically three characteristics of life, right? That we have awareness, that we have some physical part of our body that senses things. It's like sometimes they say for the eyes, they're like the window to the world, right? And our breath. Our breath is always with us. That's what it is to be alive. When a baby is first born, those are the things that people look for. Has she taken her first breath? Oh, uh, has her eyes opened? Oh, has she cried? Those are all like signs of life, the three main signs we look for. The second two lines of this verse are Dharmakirti's first proof. And remember, what we're looking for, or what we're exploring through logic, is what is the material cause? What is the stuff that turns into, in Dharmakirti's case, body and mind, turned into breathing and sense powers and mind? What is the material stuff? What is it that turns into that baby's body and mind? The third line, and this, you Tibetologists will notice that there's a min at the end of the fourth line. And that min is a negative, is not. And this applies to not only the fourth line, but also the third line. So, rangi rikla tu me chen, it means this is a double negative. So it means these three things: breathing, sense powers, mind, are not things which do not depend on something of a similar type. I'll say it again because the double negative makes it tricky, right? Let's take these three things. They are not something which does not depend on something of a similar type. Why? Nunibashik leke meant because they do not come only from the body itself. They do not come only from the body itself. So take the breathing, the sense powers, and the mind. Go back to the first moment of life, the life that's displayed in breathing, sense powers, and mind. Where did that come from? We know there was a first moment of this life. Everyone can agree about that. But what was the material cause of that first moment? You know, as Kedripche said in our last class, our mind is a changing thing. So through the process of elimination, because our mind is a changing thing, and because the rule for the type of cause, hold on, the mind is a changing thing, and all changing things have causes. There are many types of causes, and we're only talking about one type of cause, which is the material cause, the one that provides the stuff that turns into mind, the cause of mind. And we eliminated many possibilities because the rule for Nerlengi Gyu, material cause, is that for all causes actually, it has to happen before the result, right? But it has to be materially similar. Materially similar stuff. Life has to come from life. The cause of the first moment of life, if we use life to mean the breathing and the sense powers, the physical, it's physical activity, right? It's not just body, because the breathing is an activity. So let's just call that physical life. Physical life has to come from physical life. Mind, which is not physical, Mind is clear and aware. Mind comes from mind. And Kedruche, the last debate that he gave us last class was that it's the first moment of our mind in this life. Does it come from someone else's mind, or does it come from our mind? Because we've eliminated everything else. We've eliminated all possible physical causes. And we're left with mind, and we're left with it. It could not have come from someone else, that it was our own mind, previous moment of mind, which means we had a previous life. Each moment of mind is caused by the moment of mind that immediately precedes it. And each moment of mind we have now is a cause for the next moment of mind. So there's no beginning. It's always our mind that creates a moment of mind. So there's no beginning. And there's no end. Not even death of this physical body. When we stop breathing, when our sense powers stop functioning, not even that can kill our mind. The Buddhists say that when this, gross physical body, when the heart stops beating and the lungs stop breathing, and the sense, everything, withdraws, we have a very, very subtle body that's left. And you find this also in the yogic traditions, that there's a very subtle body that they call physical, but it's not something we could touch or see with our eyeballs. You can get to a place in meditation if you develop your ability to keep the mind very very still and keep the body very still. You can get to a point in meditation where you can experience that subtle body. We say you see it, but it's not like it's a visual thing. You see it in the sense that you experience it. So anyway, when this gross body stops, and this gross body will stop, the very subtle body and the very subtle mind, because the mind, it's clear and aware, right? The brain stops functioning, this thing in our skull. And so that the neurons stop firing. And so we stop having gross thoughts, not gross like sick, but gross like distinct, really evident thoughts. And we enter what they call, let's see, I have it here somewhere. I'll try not to make you too dizzy. we become a pardoa, a pardoa. This pardo means in between, in between. And wa just makes it a being, a pardoa. We take on the form of a pardoa, which is a very subtle body and a very subtle mind. And we can, a pardoa can, because it's not limited to, this thing, we're very limited in what we can do in this collection of skin and bones and guts and blood and all that. A pardoa is sort of freed from that and can go anywhere with a thought. And so the pardoa is like running around for however long it takes. They do typically, they say 49 days, no longer than 49 days. And they're flitting around. They're having hallucinations mainly. If you are a very strong practitioner, you're planting seeds for what kind of experience you'll be having as a pardoa. But anyway, they come to encounter two people having sex, and they go, "Oh, look at that." And that interest in these two people having sex, the pardoa jumps in and then gets caught as the egg and the sperm come together. And that's the end of the pardoa's life and the beginning of whatever kind of being it is. We'll say human being because that's easier. We have experience with human beings. So that the mind and the body in a very subtle sense, but mainly we're talking about mind, continues on. So the last moment of mind in one life creates the cause for the first moment of mind in the pardoa's life, in the intermediate being's life. And then the last moment of mind of the intermediate being is the cause for the first moment of mind in the next life. And we're saying human just to make it easy. It could be any one of different kinds of living beings. So with Kedruche's proofs of elimination, they show that there's no beginning to the mind and there's no end to the mind. Each moment creates the next moment. And because the mind can't be cut, we can't break it. It's not a physical thing. It's like what do they call that? I can't remember the name. Perpetual motion machine? Something like that. It keeps on going and never stops. Scientists are trying to find a way to make, I think it's called perpetual motion, so that we can make energy without having to use a bunch of energy to do so. That once we flip the switch and turn it on, it will continue forever and ever. So life and mind. Master Dharmakirti here is saying in this first proof that it has to be Luni Bashik Leke and Rangirik. So our own mind and Nuni Bashik and the body itself are the causes for life, basically, right? Physical life and mind. And the way he states it is by using the double negative. And the double negative is important. You know, I just stated it in a positive way that, you know, something physical is the cause of our life and our own mind is the cause of our mind. But he says that they are not something which does not depend on something of a similar type. One reason is because he's debating the Charvakas, and they're saying there is no past life, that it's the mother and father who are the cause of a baby. And the response is to say, you know, there is nothing, there is no body and mind which does not depend on something of a similar type. I think this also, using language like this, we can get used to it in logic because they use it a lot. It hits differently in our minds. To say these three things are not things which don't depend on things of a similar type is stronger than saying these three things depend on something of a similar type. And maybe that's something we also have to just cook. And by cook, meaning, you know, just let it sit, come back to it occasionally, give it some more thought, let it sit. Okay, proof number 2. Proof number 2 is going to use as its assertion that the 3, breathing, sense, power, and mind, they don't come from the elements alone. They're not just from the elements. Because they come from something earlier of a similar type. And that's basically the definition of Nirlengi Gyu, of material cause. Something that came before, similar stuff. So this assertion, they don't come from the elements alone. So we're going to go over the 4 elements again. And this time we're also going to talk about what are each of those elements. So we mentioned the four elements last time. And they are Sa, Chu, Me, Lung. Lung, high tone. Lung. Sa. Sa is earth, ground, like real ground. Underneath the sidewalks and roads, there's ground. And remember, these are elements. So even though it's the earth element, we are not talking about dirt. We're not talking about a planet. We're talking about an element. And the characteristics that the earth element has are sa, shing, tepa. Sa, shing, tepa. Sa, and this is a different spelling of sa. It's got a little, we call this little flag down here a ratak, but it's a ra, but it's not pronounced. So this sa, or I should say sa, high tone, it means solid, concrete, like stable, solid. Xing means and. Tepa. Tepa means hardness or rigidity, being rigid, like I can't bend my phone. And if I try too hard, it's going to break, right? Where if I wanted to bend my hair, that's really easy. So this doesn't have so much earth element. This has a lot of earth element. So that's the earth element. Chu, our second element, is water. Water. And let's have some. If you have it, let's drink if you have it. Chu. The characteristics of, I'll wait for everyone to swallow before going on. I don't want to choke my dear translators. Chu, the characteristics of Chu are Len, Xing, Sherwa. Len, Xing, Sherwa. Len, that means wet. Wet. There's another spelling with a ba prefix, and that's what you're going to see in your answer key. It's not wrong. That also means wet. But when I looked in the Great Dictionary for the spelling, because I wasn't quite so sure about it, it uses this spelling. So just for those of you who care, this one, although they're both correct, this one may be more prevalent in the in scripture. So len, anyway, it means wet. Xing again means and shirwa means flowing, fluidity. So the water element is wet and flowing. May is the fire element. May means fire. And its characteristics are Tsa, Shing, Sekpa. Tsa, Shing, Sekpa. Tsa means hot, temperature, hot. Shing again is and Sekpa is burning. The ability, the capacity to burn. So fire is hot and burning. Lung, the air element. Lung, that is yang xing yawa. Yang, that means light as opposed to heavy. Yawa. Geshe Michael translates this as moving, motility, or the word for an earthquake is sayong. So that movement of an earthquake, yom, is the same. This word yom has the same base as this yoa. They're just different forms. So it's the ability to move. And you can think wind. So those are the elements, and we can call them their definitions. You know, fire is hot and burning. Water is wet and flowing. Earth is firm and rigid. Wind is light and moving. The air element, is light and moving. So this second debate is let's take those three, breathing, sense powers, and mind. They do not come from the elements alone, because they come from something earlier of a similar type. So the elements, again, it's not like there's pieces of dirt in the phone. It's not like this thing is part pieces of dirt, and then the little tube in the middle has something that's wet and flowing. The ink has a lot of wet and flowing when the pen works well, right? But there's also air element in there that allows things to move. And apparently there's some fire element in here as well. That they believe that all four elements exist in everything. And these elements are not really like they're not physical. They are like, I guess you could say in a way, they're kind of like, and this is just my idea, but it's like there's some sort of energy. And each thing has four elements in it. There's no thing, even a rock is not 100% of earth element. There's some of the other elements included in it. Even what we drink is not 100% wet and flowing. So this is mm, the construct of saying that, okay, the first moment of an infant's life does not come from the four elements alone. Are these elements, could they be conditions or secondary factors? Qian, we talked about last time. Um, they are secondary factors, but the material thing, they're not the material thing. They're not the one thing. If it's not there, it won't happen, right? They're not the acorn for an oak tree. They're not the caterpillar for a butterfly. And Master Dharmakirti here is saying, you can't just have a recipe for, let's take 1 teaspoon of earth element and half a teaspoon of the water element. Oh, we probably have more water than that. Let's take 2 teaspoons of the water element, and we'll take a bunch of teaspoons because the baby's crying. So we'll take 3 teaspoons of the fire element, and the baby's screaming. That's a lot of breathing. So we'll take 4 teaspoons of the air element, and we'll mix them together. And that's the material cause. No, we can't have a recipe of different elements. Those elements may be present in the process of the development of moving from a zygote, from where the sperm meets the egg, into a baby. Different elements are involved. But they are not materially similar to the body and mind. Okay, that's the second proof. Now for the third proof, we're going to go through 6 proofs today. The third proof is pick those three: breathing, sense powers, and mind. They did not come from the elements alone, because the elements are not living beings. We don't have little earth, tiny earth element beings and tiny water element beings and so on. They're not living things. So again, this is his argument is being based on the idea of a material cause must come earlier, and it must be of a similar type. Okay, so that one's pretty easy, simple, right? The elements are not little living creatures. But it is good to take a break and think, recall, bring to mind where we've been in this course and why we're here now going through these logical proofs. Why did Dharmakirti talk about, why did he have to prove to Charvakas that there were past and there will be future lives? What's his book about? The Pramanavartika. It's about accurate perception, right? It's about Sema. And then we're talking about a being who turned totally accurate. At Sema Kyebu, meaning omniscient, right? That there is a being who is omniscient. And we cannot see that being. So we have to use logic to prove that that being exists. And then we talked about the first line of Master Dharmakirti's poem, right? He turned totally correct. He's a protector. He's gone to bliss. He's a teacher. And he has great compassion. Those 5 characteristics. And then we showed how he's totally correct because he's a protector. And he's a protector because he went to bliss. And he went to bliss because he's a teacher. And he's a teacher because of his great compassion. Great compassion. That's not ordinary compassion. That's wanting all living beings equally. Trillions and trillions and trillions of living beings with equal love and compassion towards each one, and wanting them to reach full enlightenment, to be completely free of all suffering, and to have all happiness. to generate that level of compassion, the Buddhist teachings say you can't do it, in one meditation session. It takes 3 countless eons. Or 7 if you practice diamond way. If you are able to generate that kind of level of compassion and you do have that much fire element, you can do it in 7 lifetimes. And who knows, this could be the last lifetime. So people said, no, 3 countless eons? What are you on about? That's insane. People live one life. So it's impossible. No such person as an enlightened being. So that's why we're going through all this. Okay, little intermission is over. Now on to the 4th proof. Somebody says the mind does not cross over into a future life. And Master Dharmakirti says, okay, let's take the mind. It is not something which does not cross over into the next life, because of the mind's ability to continue itself. We observe the mind continuing itself. That is our experience. We may not have perfect memory of every instant of mind that we've had since we were in our mother's womb, but we have memories of early childhood. We have memories of where we lived and what animals we may have had, or we may remember learning how to ride a bike. We may remember many moments of mind. We remember being in nursery school or kindergarten. I don't know if you have these schools. These are places for little kids. And then we remember in elementary school when we learned to read, or we remember in 5th grade when we learned about division. We remember. We have experience of that. We certainly think that we're going to have future experiences in this life. We don't think we're going to die in the next instant, that it's all going to end in the next instant. It is this body and mind is going to, gross body and mind is going to end. But so we accept this one pretty easily. Or we can, if we stop to think about it for a moment. Now, of course, as they say in the advertisements for particular stocks, investment opportunities, past experience is no proof of future results. Just because this stock made money, all the years up till now, doesn't mean it's going to continue to make money. That's true. That's true. Past experience is not proof of future results. But here, Master Dharmakirti is presenting that as proof. So it makes sense, but it's not, to me, it's not totally foolproof, right? Because things can change. So saying that mind continues itself, I can agree that mind continues itself, but I would say makya, I would say it's not necessarily true that because mind continues itself, that there must be a next life. And then I would go to Ben Kramer and have him give me the real debate. Okay, 2 more to go. 5th proof. Now, Master Dharmakirti says, take the elements, those 4 elements. They are not the cause of the 3, breathing, sense power, and mind, because there should never be cases where the elements fail to cause the 3. In other words, he's saying, if the elements were the cause of the 3, then every time the elements came together, there would be life. So Buddhism, in the Buddhist scriptures, they talk about 4 different ways of taking birth. There's womb, like humans, mammals. There's eggs, like birds and fish. There's miraculous birth, like they say the Bodhisattva Padmasambhava was born from a lotus flower. And then there's birth from warmth and moisture. Birth from warmth and moisture. And this, I think, was pretty much because the eggs of some insects were so very tiny that they didn't notice them. And so they thought mosquitoes just came from warmth and moisture. They couldn't see mosquito eggs. It does seem like it, though. Like in my experience, I did a 3-year retreat at Diamond Mountain in Arizona. And in the summertime, it gets very hot. And then the rains come. And overnight, like it just seemed to be miraculous, there's all of a sudden an explosion of different kinds of flying creatures and crawling creatures. And there's these tiny little red velvet bugs. I don't know. They got 8 legs and they're like velvet. And then one day they're most of the year they're not there, and then one day, boom, they're crawling all over the place. And it seems like, oh, warmth and moisture. That's what brought these beings around. So, of these four uh, types, um, like it's it would have to be, says Dharmakirti, that every time the four elements came together, um, they would have to disappear, and then there would be life, body, and mind. But sometimes you see times when the elements come together, but life is not created. They don't cause life. And this is a proof that Geshe Michael likes to talk about a lot, actually. That if something were the cause of something else, it would have to happen every time. If the car key, turning the car key, well, we don't do that anymore. If the key fob being in my car was the cause of my car starting, then it would happen every time. But it doesn't happen every time. If it were, well, now we have to say, if it were a full battery that caused the car to go, then the car should go every time there's a full battery, but sometimes it doesn't. So what's the real cause? That can't be the real cause if it doesn't happen all the time. Right, thank you. And then our last proof. Let's take the elements again, the four elements. They are not the cause of the three, of breathing, of sense powers, and of mind, because multiple elements, because if that were the case, then multiple elements would cause multiple people. What's the difference? Why would he say, why would, when you bring the elements together, they create only one mind, one body and mind? Why don't they create multiple bodies and multiple minds? So those are six of Master Dharmakirti's proofs related to the existence of uh, past and future lives. I mean, the main thing to take away is that the cause must be of a similar type and must occur earlier. And we'll continue on with the rest of his arguments in our next class. And it's not really all of them, right? That if we were to have his text in front of us, there would be more than just these. It would be a lot more reading and contemplation. And if you come to the mixed nuts, to Xuanzang's Tower classes, you know that Ben Kramer is working on translating Geshe Yeshe Wangchuk's commentary on Master Dharmakirti. So even though we're just at the beginning, eventually we'll get to these discussions again. So I look forward to that. Okay, so does anybody have any questions before we end class? No questions? Okay. Okay, well, happy May Day. First day of May. I'm grateful for each one of you and your interest and your study and your practice. I'm especially grateful to the live translators. I'm in awe of you. You are amazing. And thank you to the tech team who works on making this possible. And thank you to ACI and especially Geshe Michael and the internet. And we can now have time to actually do the closing prayer, or I have time to do the closing prayer with you. If you want to join in, you are more than welcome to. So take up all of the positive potential we created today in this class. And what the heck, take all of it that we've had in this course so far. And let's direct those seeds towards realizing our highest goal. Sachi Puki Chukshi Metoktra Rira Blingshi Nyende Kempagi Sangye Shindu Lingte Uwarki Dokun Namdak Shinla Chupar Cho Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamniyatayami. Ewadi Kewoku Sunam Yeshe Tsoksok Shin Sunam Yeshe Lejunwe Dampar Kuni Topar Sho. Thanks very much again, and have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you next week.